I think that's kind of where BetterForms though like shines is like it adopts like that FileMaker mentality of like we can quickly iterate on a concept very fast, and we have like mostly like a lot of boilerplate ready to go uh,
Mhm.
to make it hit that MVP, right? Um, the sooner the better, because it's nicer if you can go through a program and see if you actually like it, or if it's going to fit your company's uh, overall goal.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining on the DevCast this morning. And yeah, we're going to use today's session to do a little catch up on FileMaker BetterForms and get us all up to speed on some of the stuff we've been working on lately and some of the new stuff that Delft's engineering's been working on in the BetterForms platform. And so with that, I'm going to flip it over to Jacob, I think.
So I guess today we're going to be reviewing a few videos from the Better Forms like final Friday Live that they did for 2024. And we're going to review just a couple segments that they have, and some interesting spots that I guess we've identified that we liked, that are showcasing Better Forms capabilities as a tool to build web apps. And I guess giving our opinions, an overall discussion about them.
Go off of one of our projects that we worked on in the last year. And I don't know if anyone here is familiar with someone by the name of Dr. Stephen Greer, but he's a ufologist who looks into alien evidence and stuff like that. And he has a big archive that he wanted us to publish to the web. So we built this portal for them. And Charles can kind of chime in here, but it's caused a lot of not issues, but a lot of challenges for us to in terms of optimizing and caching data and making sure all that data is served quick. So there's a lot of cool tricks in here that we put in.
Hmm.
So
This just sorry, Andrew, just a quick thing. When this site went live, this one site accounted for 4 times the total amount of traffic on our network. So that means take everybody else's apps, hundreds of other apps, put them all together, times 4 was this one site alone. So we definitely had to do a little bit of optimization when it went live, but now it can handle the traffic no problem at all. And we'll talk a little bit in a second about what we did there.
Yep. So when you come to this page, you'll see a bunch of categories. This is essentially a database of documents. So in categories, you have categories and then subcategories inside those categories, and then eventually get to a list of documents in which you can select them. For example, let's select this one here. It's a PDF that loads. You can open it, you can view it, go back. It'll scroll back to where it left you off before, and you can kind of go and quickly scan through all the documents that are available on this site. And you notice that going back and forth is quite fast. We've done a lot of caching, things like that. Even on the main page here, this page loads pretty much instantaneously, even these subcategories as well. But for example, this category here for United States has about 1,000 documents, and there were a lot of optimizing and caching that we've done on the back end to serve this data a lot faster. And especially the load that I had on our network, we need to make sure that we weren't sending back megabytes of data every time they wanted to view a document. So a lot of cool things we did there. Charles, did you want to mention any of the caching or
Yeah,
stuff
yeah. So I mean, we've talked a little bit in the past about caching, but we got quite a few better from devs, so I'll just mention it quick. Different levels of caching. You can cache right in FileMaker, so you can take aggregate data, save it in a field. So we do that already for the categories and for the items that are underneath. That's a low hanging fruit. But when you have, say, 200 or 300 users on that are hitting the database and fetching that one record every 4 or 5 seconds because they're browsing, they're not actually entering data, so they're not really consuming that much. They're just flicking around. So you're getting a lot of extra hits on the database. So to reduce that, we actually do in-browser caching that Andrew built in. And what happens there is as you navigate around, it does a single fetch and then it reuses that data. And then after a certain expiry time, it goes back and it'll refetch the data, I think every half an hour or something like that. And that significantly deburdens FileMaker. There's more levels if we wanted to scale this up another 10 or 100x. The original requirement was, let's say we've seen some performance issues, so let's scale it up to 2 orders of magnitude, so 100 times more performant. So that's what we did. We just did those two things that gave us that much. If we wanted to go another order to another 10,000 or 1,000 to 10,000 times scalability, the BetterForms network's no problem. We can do that because we can instantly scale. But FileMaker as a database can't as much. So then you would add maybe some more caching in between. But already as it sits, it can pretty much scale up to, another 10x probably fine. So it's something you can do. I know a lot of you guys have already done different types of optimizations like that. Sorry, Andrew.
No worries. Yeah, so that was a fun challenge for us to solve there. Last thing I want to show off here is kind of the navigation aspect, because this little drop down here, because there's so many categories and they need to kind of view it from not only a desktop but a mobile device. We made it as streamlined as possible for them to find what they're looking for. These search bars will search the entire database for a given document, stuff like that. And even on a mobile device, we have a sidebar here. Credit to Rashad Alinshu, who built a lot of this segment here, but this is just some inspiration on maybe a mobile focused sidebar. Blurs out the screen and they can come here and quickly navigate to whatever category they're looking for.
Anybody found anything interesting out of that? Observations?
I like the aliens data.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty neat. The caching, I think, is a new thing that BetterForms kind of introduced on their front end side. We're not leveraging it right now, but I think some of our projects kind of like could benefit maybe from some of that. For sure.
Too about users, like it depends too in your scenario. If you have we have a certain client who has images, but the people who are searching the images aren't necessarily going to be put off by a 2-second delay or a 3-second delay. They're going to click and they're going to wait and it'll load, it'll be fine. Versus other places that expect a really fast turnaround time. Kind of depends on your clientele and the purpose of the database too.
Yeah,
that's
a good point.
Is the caching that Charles is talking about in that video mostly when there's large data sets? Is that the primary benefit there?
Correct. Yeah. So if you're enabling caching on the browser side, typically you're probably dealing with a very large data set. In their case, I think it was document fetching. So if somebody's already like fetched that document before, you want to query FileMaker again to get the same data. They've just cached it so that it's accessible again.
Well, if it's caching it locally and not going back to the server, doesn't that mean that the cached data could be a little bit out of date?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely possible. Within seconds of a change, definitely. But I think in the purpose of like their situation for that client wasn't like real time. Most of that data was just kind of there and lingering around for some time. Yeah. We haven't done anything that fancy with drop downs in the nav, but I thought that was pretty nice, formatting wise.
Yeah, the caching is interesting. I thought the caching was like the user's specific browser, not like the whole hosted kind of apps caching. Because you were saying like if a single user does a request for a document, then the whole system has it cached, so another user could access that same thing and not have to do the fetch from FileMaker.
No, it is local to the machine, so the caching is happening for that person. Yeah, because you wouldn't want them like if they've already accessed a section of the system. It wouldn't make sense for somebody who may never access that section to have it cached.
That is true. Yeah.
Okay, and this one is an application called Cinder to manage rentals online.
I was showing off the login. This is designed by Pearson, and I like the login page because it was kind of like it looked kind of modern, so I like that. and it looks nice kind of on mobile as well. I'll start off by showing one feature that I kind of want to show because I think it applies to a lot of people. I've had a lot of people ask about something like this before, and that's kind of an auto logout feature where your app kind of just auto logs out after you're not active for a while, and I'll kind of just show the underlying code for that since it's fairly basic. So right here, I'm just going to go into my actions and this timer I have here, this function. I'm just going to set this to 10 seconds just for demonstration purposes. All right, and let me just show how that would react. So we'll give this 10 seconds now. And this is just an auto logout feature where we like it depending on the type of app, we don't want people kind of lingering around because after a while their token might expire as well. So right here, after 10 seconds, this pops up. And then right now, this is set to after another 5 minutes, I'll just auto log out the person. And if they're here, they can just click I'm still here. And then it'll just do a full refresh on their page just to update them. And they go back to where they were. How this works is there's I have three functions over here. There's a listener, a reset, and a timer. The main one's the timer. All it does here is it just starts a timer, and you can just put it to 900 seconds. That's the default we wanted at. And there's a listener on the page where if I go here, there's a listener on the page. Anytime I click anything on the page, the timer will just reset. So it's fairly low code. They click anything on the page. It's just a event listener looking for any clicks. Any clicks just resets the timer, then it goes back. So yeah, that was, I think I'll just leave that at there for now. One feature I want to show off. Any questions?
Hassan, does that have to be on every page or
No,
are you doing that? Okay.
This is not on every page. I have this. This is in the global scripts over here.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay.
So right on the on upload, I run this, and that's it.
Nice.
What does everybody think of that one? Or where would we use it in our things? Or did you know it was possible?
I liked the more dynamic progress indicator.
That's pretty
Instead
nifty.
of the main feature.
Well, it kept my eye a little more when you've got a long delay. I mean, it kept my eye a little more interested than the simple one.
Yeah,
The multicolor swirl thing going on when the page is loading. Yeah.
I mean, performance is all about perception. You know, sometimes a 10-second delay seems like an eternity. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I was thinking when he said if they clicked I'm still here, that when it refreshed, I was like, oh, that might be kind of, if it might refresh them to like the beginning of the app versus bring them back to where they were. But if it's bringing them back to where they were, then that's, you know, I guess there's no problem there. But I could see how that might be to the users, maybe a little irritating if they get refreshed to like somewhere they were not at, they lose whatever, you know, work they were doing or whatever they were doing before within the app. But yeah, that's kind of,
I mean,
that's cool.
It sounded like though, like any clicks though, I guess, as long as the user was clicking and actively using the application, then they'd never go into that state.
Yeah. Yeah. After
So
9 seconds,
interesting
I
use
guess.
case. We are doing something similar in one of our apps, but not resetting it via timer. We're just clearing the log out and destroying the session essentially, just to prevent like the users like going away and they haven't come back to the tab. We'll destroy that. Or if they exit the active application tab, then we basically terminate their session to make sure that they re-authenticate.
I've wanted to do this kind of thing in FileMaker itself a few times, where you somehow put up a dialog and then log the user off if they don't respond. But I don't think we've ever quite pulled the trigger on that feature. Tried to.
Yeah, no, don't users get timed out after? Isn't there a setting for that in security?
There's a
I
setting,
don't think I've ever used it, but
yeah, there's a setting in the FileMaker server admin console. You can set you can set a FileMaker client timeout or a WebDirect client timeout.
Mm-hmm.
But there have been times where what we wanted to do, this is not web related, but there have been times where what we wanted to do is if a client has a record committed or uncommitted, that we commit it and get them out of the detail layout because they're potentially locking up a record. So it's not exactly a log out, it's a commit timeout. But I don't think we've ever quite pulled the trigger there because there's no way to, I think that stumbling block there has always been that if the user is sitting there staring at the screen, or they're in the middle of typing up something and they go have lunch, and then they come back to their computer. If you try and run a script that does something, it removes them from where they were on the record. So there's no way to really easily keep them in the context of where they were. So if they're in the middle of filling out a 3-page form and you prompt them, hey, you seem to be idle, can we close the record? There's no way to then put the cursor right back where it was. I think that's the problem we've run into. Again, that's sort of off topic from what we're talking
about. That'd be a great feature, though.
It would be. It would be. Yeah, I mean, if there was an easy feature for that, it would solve a fairly common problem of people leaving records open.
This client also is very, very in tune with how their appearance. They want very much consistency with their website and their web app and colors and fonts. And it's been neat to see attention to detail there. They catch stuff that we wouldn't have thought to catch, and then we can fix it.
A lot of CSS that went into the process of creating this web app, just because the styles and customizations that they wanted in here just required more in-depth look at like the elements and structure overall. So this, like, if you were to look at a template starter file for BetterForms and then review the code for this, they look somewhat the same in structure, but you'd see that we've completely customized a lot of the CSS and created all of our own custom elements and things like that. We're also leveraging like hiding, a lot of different hiding calcs in this. So like, I guess being inspired from like FM ham or permissions, or basically like leveraging kind of a subset of that and controlling the navigation based on like a user's specific permissions. So like if they haven't registered for an application, some of these things wouldn't even be accessible to them. We're currently doing that for winter, but eventually summer will also do that. So this one is kind of their main dashboard. So clicking on summer will take you to kind of a dashboard overview of basically everything this user can take action on. And everything's kind of like divided nicely into categories to allow them to pick up where they need to. And this is a event registration system, probably like what we were reviewing last in the video. And this user is going to have access to a bunch of different pieces of data to get to.
And one thing with that section that I like with talking about iterative design is several of their buttons there just go to they go to Google Documents. And so they manage the information there. It's not that you click a button and you're into the next BetterForms UI. It's just a document. But in the future, when they're ready to make it blend in more, then we can just work on that one section and make it match up with their FileMaker system. So that's really cool. It can look really nice and beautiful, but it doesn't have to all be fleshed out. It doesn't have to all be, have the full functionality.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Yeah, for sure.
That's a great example of it sounds like a great example to me of minimum viable product. Do do things in an expedient way while you do the most important stuff, and then pick that other stuff up later.
Yeah.
Like that.
I think that's kind of where BetterForms though like shines, is like it adopts like that FileMaker mentality of like we can quickly iterate on a concept very fast, and we have like mostly like a lot of boilerplate ready to go uh,
Mhm.
to make it hit that MVP, right? Um, the sooner the better, because it's nicer if you can go through a program and see if you actually like it, or if it's going to fit your company's overall overall goal.
I love it.
It does support like pay section, so user can pay via their invoices. So this is connected to like a pay system, so the user can actually you know check out system.
It's authorized.net integration.
Authorized.net, yes.
And
So a
there's
few bells and whistles.
no credit cards in the database at all, right? That's all PCI compliant.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
And they can do it in stages as well. They can pay a deposit and then they can go back later and pay for additional areas. They don't have to pay once and be done. So that's
Yeah.
cool.
Probably it. Most of the application like follows like the same general kind of structure. But this is you can submit forms, so the forms are done in a manner that's like pleasing to the eye.
And
They have
that's all mobile friendly, right?
Mhm.
this is all mobile friendly, yes. So if we inspect, you can see it's already pushed to the mobile view.
They have the most complex event registration process I've ever encountered. Um, with having to apply first for the right to register and then register after that, and then
Yeah.
all of the options they have. It's a complex registration process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun on the FileMaker side of things, the business logic that kind of govern the actions here over like registrations and applications, like uh pretty complex.
Yeah, you mentioned credentials. It's not just credentials of like viewer, user, admin. It's that, yeah, if you haven't applied, you can log in and create an account, but you just see certain things. If you have applied, then you can see extra things. But if you're not approved, you have to wait till you're approved to be able to see the next step. So it's many levels like that too, beyond just the normal user credentials.
Let's see if I can pull it up. The Figma workflow,
Oh
that
yeah.
might be kind of just an
Mhm.
interesting,
This has
just so
probably
we
been
can see like a spider web of the reality that is the logic.
This is probably one of the more
So
complex workflows we've used Figma
this
for.
is the
Mhm.
the governing navigation logic that exists only partially at this point. We're still incorporating this segment as well as like other parts, but I'm not sure if everybody can kind of see. This is the first approach that we did, like a logic map, because there's just a lot of complexity happening within the web app. Felt it good to see all of that, and also for the client to make decisions on where to go next.
Figma's been a great tool.
Mhm.
So this is kind of just an example of some logic we introduced in this next go around. They don't have any applications. We just wrap back around to their parent site. And then if they did start an application, then they're limited to just the simple UI. And that's kind of what we've done here. So we go to winter, they just have the application state, and they can choose the conference that they're making active in that case, and then continue on to either edit that application again, or you know wait till they're in the next step, which is have they been approved. But currently not yet. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. I haven't seen that app in a little while, so it's nice to get a little overview. You and Brandon have mostly been working on that.
Yeah.
Josh has been jumping in there and getting his feet wet.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
That's it. With the first client, and they have a Figma mockup as well. And this was a learning experience for me. So we had the Figma mockup, which is kind of the source of truth. And then Jacob built it to match that mockup pretty exact. And then they would have a change. And so Jacob would do the change. But then he said to me, he said, well, can you update the Figma mockup? And at first I was like, well, why do we need to do that? That was the original thing. But now we have it documented in teamwork that it changed. But I still owe you some updates, I'm sure, but he was good about saying, no, we need to, if Figma is the truth, we need to update that also. So if there are questions in the future, we can always go back and make sure it's matching the Figma mockup. That was a little bit different,
Yeah.
a different pattern of workflow for me.
That's great. That takes a lot of self-discipline to do that. We talked about that recently with regard to keeping permissions documentation up to date for a number of different clients. That kind of awareness to if you're making changes to go update the documentation, or log a requirement to update the documentation. There's no way to keep that stuff up to date without that kind of awareness. It's just too easy to not do that.
Yeah, it's very easy.
Yeah.
That's why I'm behind on some of that, just with everything else going on. But it's very wise to have that callback to say, go back and make sure it's right, where we all need to reference it. So it's still a habit in progress, but I appreciated that. I appreciate you doing that, Jacob. Keeping us
Important habit to reinforce for sure.
Yeah. That was it for the walkthroughs. So now just kind of observations chiming in. We had a one question, a hypothetical question was, if I think from Charles's website, like if you didn't have unlimited time and resources, what project would you build in BetterForms was one question. Work related or not, if it sparked any creative ideas.
I mean, I'm in it all the time, so I feel like my answer's skewed. I'm using it currently for full access, so building presentation stuff in there. I mean, anything like you can ask an AI about like ideas, because that's a lot. Basically, what I've been doing is like getting like brainstorming with an AI about like concepts, right? That kind of fit the web app space, and it's interesting. It's like you could throw a bunch of things at it, and then all these concepts like apply to just getting started in a better forms environment. And um, yeah, web apps, there are many, so anything you can dream of.
And just since you mentioned it, I'm going to elaborate for a second that you and I and Russell and Mike are all going to be at that full access FileMaker conference in California in October. And at the moment, two of us are doing sessions. Mike's helping to run the conference, so he's going to be busy doing that. But I'm doing a session on AI, using AI tools to help analyze FileMaker server log files. And you're doing a session on, Jacob, on vibe coding and FileMaker BetterForms, right?
Yeah. It may progress in different realms because AI is just like so crazy, just moving so fast. You try to keep up with everything and all the trends, but it's a challenge.
It's a major challenge.
I was going to say from a client project perspective, like we've shown examples of clients who are already using FileMaker, but clients don't have to be using FileMaker to have a web app. They can just have a business problem that they need to solve, and we can solve it with BetterForms, kind of do that in reverse. So
for sure.
I guess
it's a rapid application development. It's a rapid application development tool. In this case, a rapid web application development.
I guess my question, being a new to BetterForms and being a very traditional bread and butter FileMaker developer, even though I might not be familiar with the tool, I like to know how these tools sort of fit into the ecosystem of everything that we do and that we develop? Where does BetterForms fit in? What is the development time? What are the costs? How does this benefit the client in relationship to other traditional methodologies that we might use or other web applications?
I'll throw out my
Yeah.
2 cents worth on that one. To me, there's sort of a three-pronged. It's not really let's call it a fork, a three-pronged fork of places of modes that we're deploying applications to. Our traditional role as FileMaker developers anyway has been to create an app that utilizes the FileMaker Pro client. We deploy the app within the FileMaker Pro client. The users install the FileMaker Pro client. All well and good for an application that's being used in-house, especially by modest-sized work groups or larger work groups if the company has an IT infrastructure that supports mass deployment of FileMaker Pro and all that. And then we have WebDirect, that is a fantastic tool for deploying a web application that's just as easy to make almost as a FileMaker Pro application. But it's still a FileMaker Pro application. It's not a web app. It's not a traditional web app. It's a FileMaker Pro running in a browser kind of thing. And it doesn't check a couple of boxes. It's different. It's different than any other web app. It behaves a little bit differently than a traditional web app. The back button doesn't work, and you don't have access to the full suite of web development tools. It can't be made as mobile accessible as a traditional web app. And so there's places where WebDirect works really well, and then there's some other places where it doesn't work as well. And then the third prong of that fork, in my mind, I don't think that's a very good analogy, but the third way that we deploy applications is as a more traditional full stack web application, and that's what we're deploying with BetterForms is a web app that's going to behave for the end user like every other web app on the planet. So it's well suited to an anonymous web end user, and if they're not anonymous, they're an end user on the web that you don't have a lot of control over. They might not interact with your site very often. You don't want to expend support resources trying to help them use your website. At least you want to minimize that. And so that's where BetterForms gives us a great tool for building that kind of web app on top of the FileMaker database engine. We don't have to redesign our FileMaker side of things. So for one of the clients we looked at, that event registration system, they have a full-featured admin tool written in FileMaker for managing a bunch of aspects of their organization, and we don't have to rewrite any of that. All we have to do is create the web app on top that creates the functionality that the end users need. Web end users, the event applicants. So it's a good combination. It's a good combination. It lets us use the RAD tools, the fast development tools of FileMaker where we can, and the BetterForms tools where we have to do web front end stuff.
Can you speak to the client licensing model on that?
Sure. So I think
you have anonymous users traditionally with BetterForms.
Yeah, the BetterForms is accessing the data in FileMaker through the XML web publishing connector, and so there's no per-user licensing. There's whatever licensing you have on your FileMaker server is what you have, and FileMaker BetterForms is accessing the data through the XML web publishing engine. So there's not an incremental per-user licensing cost. WebDirect, depending on how you're using it, depending on the type of licensing you have, you very well may have individual end user licensing. And so that's certainly a consideration at times also.
Would you say it's fair to consider FM BetterForms is a form of custom web publishing in that it also gives you that rapid application development.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would defer to Jacob's opinion about BetterForms as a RAD environment compared to other full stack environments. I'm a little bit less familiar with that. Jacob, do you want to?
Yeah, so BetterForms is kind of like in John's fork analogy, we're looking at the last fork, but this fork would have four prongs. Because web development is the last, like a full stack app, right? Before approaching that full stack from scratch development mode, there's a lot to consider in that. And if we're FileMaker developers, our world doesn't revolve around the web development side of things, right? We're kind of in the FileMaker realm. We understand FileMaker, and that's like our home. Uh, BetterForms is just the middleman. It's basically facilitating a tool that lets us go between the full stack world and FileMaker and puts us in a comfortable space where it's not as challenging. We don't have to think about all the extra things that come with full stack, uh, but we're still getting a polished full stack web app at the end of the day. And we're starting at a better place than we would have going from scratch. So the tools that are available within the environment allow for that rapid development because at the end of the day, we're focusing on the FileMaker side as much as we are in kind of the front end, but the front end has been somewhat built for us in a manner that allows us to excel and exceed.
Mike, you had asked about cost. So that first example we had, our statement of work for them was about 150 hours. And then we've gone over by about 40. Some of that is our learning, just kind of figuring out different approaches to take. Some of it's project management, updating the original Figma file. And I think we told them about 15 of that was just additional time that we needed to, once we got in, to see more behind the scenes. And then they probably, as they've seen it come to life, and then they're in that phase that clients do, like, well, let's do this and let's do this and we can do this and this would be great. And so we have a whole list of things in the future. It's probably about 50 hours or so right now, and they're considering what they want to go forward with or what they want to just wait on. And then for the second client, I'm not familiar with I don't remember the initial, they were moving from a different developer who had kind of not gotten things where they needed it. So there was a lot of cleanup on our side to get them to a good spot. But now they're more in phases, and it might be 10 hours, 5 hours, it could be 30. They have a donations module they want to add, but right now they just want to have some FileMaker aspects of it for their record keeping, really, and documenting kind of previous history, or taking their paper processes and just documenting it in FileMaker.
Mm-hmm.
So that part of it, I think we're looking at around 60 hours. And then eventually they want to have a whole donations process where people can donate online and to different categories and different purposes. But that's the next step after the FileMaker part. So cost is, all sorts of ranges. But again, I like that it's segmented. You can just do a little here, a little there, a lot here, a lot there. Whatever they're looking to do has been really, really neat to map that out and say, do you want to do 5? Do you want to do 50? And let them have those conversations where they can decide how much to do and when, what works with their budget.
What would you say? What is BetterForms licensing model itself? What are the
They have
costs associated with them?
they sell it's a subscription based model. I would say if you want to go to FileMaker BetterForms' website and look up pricing, we have Portage Bay has a sort of an umbrella account. So we've typically been hosting client solutions within that account. But you can go to BetterForms' website and buy a subscription like you can for a lot of software as a service kind of systems. It's not super expensive, but off the top of my head, I don't remember the cost.
So if a project came up that I was working on that I thought, well, this looks like could be really well done in like BetterForms. Is that something that you might say I need to talk to one of the BetterForms gurus at Portage Bay, or you might say, Mike, why don't you see if you can tackle this?
I mean, if we took a client that any of our clients that we're working with, and we saw a need for a front end web application, I think we would talk to whoever's, you or whoever's working with that client and come to an understanding about what kind of web app we're looking for. Is it a completely anonymous, something really, really, really simple, a little tiny anonymous web data gathering tool? Claris Studio might be an option for that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a tightly controlled user base where we just need to deploy a version of the app to 5 or 10 remote users that are remote employees? They're under a lot of control of the organization. We know who they are. We know that any training investment we made in them is going to pay off in the long run. Well, then WebDirect might be a perfect tool for that. Is it a public-facing web app of some sort? Well, then something like a BetterForms app would be needed there. And if it's FileMaker database engine on the back end, then BetterForms is a really good option to consider. So we would probably go in that direction.
I always want to find the right tool for the job, and this thing looks like goes miles beyond the Claris offerings. So
yeah, you can. It is. I think that's true. I think there's other options as well, but I think BetterForms is pretty tough to beat for certain applications right now. Hard to say how things are going to change 10 minutes from now with how things are advancing in our industry, but I think BetterForms is a really good tool for the applications where it's the tool that makes sense.
Yeah, and web apps in general, like depending on complexity, like I tend to see WebDirect is still like a valid option for most cases. I mean, it's a little aged, but it can still get the job done in most cases. But BetterForms kind of like fits that niche where you're slowly going into the realm of like, this is, the modern age of web design. And we need this thing to look, super polished. But we're using FileMaker as our database. This isn't SQL or any other system or Mongo. BetterForms is kind of like the fit. It just makes sense. They have the architecture set up there for it. So
I think WebDirect is great because it's fast, and it's a tool we're all familiar with. That's helpful. But you're constrained. I think it's great for situations where you're trying to build a business tool, and you're not. What you're concerned about is that the business tool works well, and that you get it done at a reasonable price. If you want the flexibility, if someone's going to come to you and say, "Oh, I saw this widget on this website," or "I saw this navigation functionality on that website. I really want that." Then you need the flexibility that BetterForms gives you to say, "Oh, well, we can do that." Pretty much any web technology that's out there, any widget, any calendar, any JavaScript whiz bang whirligig, we can integrate that into our BetterForms site.
So my last question concerning BetterForms, I hear that, you guys talk about a rapid development tool, but once you utilize that and do that, is there still a lot of tweaking that you need to do web code underneath the hood to get it where it needs to be? I know somebody mentioned the CSS and everything else. I don't know if that's part of the graphical interface of BetterForms, or whether you're just going to have to get down underneath there and tweak tweak that code.
Yeah, so one of the things with BetterForms is, I mean, and like as a FileMaker developer, I feel like I'm uh like more aligned to tell people like just go try it and see what you think. Because after using it for so long, I've grown accustomed to some of the tools that are there and available within BetterForms, but I know it can seem kind of daunting. And actually, for the full access, I kind of wanted to like showcase that extra side of like you can do this. Like BetterForms is just a tool. You're a FileMaker developer. AI kind of exists now in this weird state, and we can leverage it to do basically 50% of our work, especially within in the BetterForms environment where it's mostly web-based things. But to answer your question, like there are parts of the web to understand. You'll have to learn those things.
Yeah.
But once you kind of know where the tools are at in that environment, you can build whatever you want, right? Because AI can build whatever you whatever you want. So the understanding isn't like I need to know everything right away. It's just I need to know how to get to the end goal. How do I get to the item that I want? What do I want it to look like? The questions aren't like, how do I build this? It's more of what are you looking to build? What's the end goal? And then have something create that for you. Get it to the point where it's basically finished or it's in a working state. Then you can go back and say, this looks like trash. I want it to look, I want it to look like this, and then go find an image and, model after that design, right?
Mhm. Well, if I'm not running around like a chicken with its head cut off at a conference, I'm definitely going to try to see your session. So
Good. Well, I'm sure we'll have more web app projects coming, so we'll get more of you involved. Get your hands dirty in that. But yeah, that's our show for today, folks.
Good.
Don, you have to do the call out that Dan always does.
Anyway, get back to work.
Right.
Thank you for spending your time with us at the FileMaker DevCast today. We hope you found something useful, something thought-provoking, and something to take into your own development approach. Things to help you be more productive and to allow you and your teams to get more done in less time. You can find us online at portagebay.com and filemakerdevcast.com. Also, follow us on our social media accounts at Portage Bay or at FMDevcast. Please let us know if we can help you or your company with modernizing your approaches and streamlining your workflow. We look forward to seeing you during the next DevCast.